please call the roll.
Sorry to do that. Mr. Breaker,
Here.
Dr. Cross,
Present.
Dr. Kroll,
Present.
Mrs. Lehman,
Here.
Mr. Neely, Mr. Roth,
Present.
and Mr. Red.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Every board meeting has 2 opportunities for public comments. The first session of public comments at the beginning of the meeting is strictly for items that appear on this meeting's agenda for discussion or action. The second session of public comments at the end of the meeting is for communication that is not necessarily on the board's agenda. In order to speak at this meeting, members of the public must complete a card with their name and topic and turn it in prior to the beginning of the first segment of public comments. If you wish to speak and have not yet turned in your card, now is your final opportunity. The Board of Education will take all comments under consideration and respond if necessary in a timely manner. We ask that your comments address the Board of Education and not the audience. We will limit your comments to 5 minutes. Participants are expected to conduct themselves with civility and respect and follow the guidelines outlined in the board policy. Dr. Sanders, anybody wishing to speak to agenda items?
We have no agenda-related topics.
Okay, then with that, we will move on to reports, starting with the administrative report.
Okay, I just have a few things this evening. The Morton High School renovation, I think, is off and running. Tearing down a lot of the walls, interior walls to the locker room area, and I think I've sent the board some pictures of that. I have a few more I'll send you. We have a window that looks out from one of the administrator's offices right out into that foyer lobby area. So we can often get pictures from at least that perspective. If we are allowed into the construction site, we'll take a few other pictures and kind of show you the progress, but it's coming along. Last week, we sent out the videos to the parents in the community of a video that MPTV helped Deidre Ripka and I produce. And so it was like a 6-minute video. And then we also captured the presentation that I did in the board setting. If someone wanted to see a longer version of the detail of that project, that was also sent out. And I think our students got to see the video as well. So it's out there, and we'll be speaking about it when opportunities come. One is the forecast breakfast. And I think, Valerie, you sent something out to the board regarding that, so.
We've had lots of nice responses already.
Okay.
So thank you.
So we'll try to get a table or 2 set up for that,
We'll
those
get-
that are interested.
Whoever wants to come.
So the project's going great, as far as we can tell so far. And a lot of people are very positive about it. As we describe it to people, they're very excited about what it's gonna look like. And we're excited to see what it actually will look like through those architects' renderings. So I think it's going well. Congratulations to 3 of our Morton Junior High School teams or players for bringing home state medals. So we just on Saturday, our 8th grade girls volleyball team were state champs here in Morton. So the state championship was played here. We won on our own court. They did it in 2 games, which is almost unheard of. And it was just phenomenal how well they did. The 7th graders, not too many days prior to that, got 3rd in state. So we have 1st and 3rd in our 8th and 7th grade volleyball teams. So that's excellent. And in the Potter Post, you probably saw that Brody Watson, one of our wrestlers, got 1st in state in his weight class of 112. So you're going to get to meet all these folks at our next meeting. We'll bring them to you and recognize them in our board meeting. I guess the only other thing I had to mention is Mr. Breaker and Dr. Sander and I got to be part of the 5th grade etiquette luncheon last week, where it's been a long-standing tradition. I don't know how many years running, but of the 5th graders at Lincoln School learning manners and how to eat and have conversation and be polite and all those things. And they all gather at Bertha Frank Performing Arts Center, have a dinner that was prepared by our high school students. And help from our food service workers as well. And we had our our orchestra playing during it, so it was kind of trying to be a more formal occasion, and anyway, the kids were dressed up for it. It was just, it's a great experience, and it's a great way that kids can kind of get a taste of the real world and how they should behave outside the walls of the school. And they've just done a fantastic job with that each year. So grateful for being part of that. That is all I have.
That, we'll move on to the president's report. I just have a few comments, just to comment too, to thank Lincoln for their efforts on the etiquette lunch. It's kind of fun. That's, I guess, one of the perks of being the board president. You get invited to that. We also, the board had an opportunity to go to the junior high this evening to have dinner with staff there. It's, a lot of things are positive there. They're surprisingly humble with all their success lately, so, but it's neat to hear their passion and enthusiasm for what they're teaching and what they're trying to do different and just keep learning and just keep perfecting their craft. So it's neat to see that. The other positive, I thought, while we were sitting in there, we were sitting in the new foyer right outside the gymnasium, and it makes you kind of excited that the high school is going to mimic that and that we have that to look forward to at the high school. So positive experience. I appreciate them taking the evening off too, and Mr. Carter for hosting us. We do appreciate it, and it's good to be with the teachers. I think the last thing I had was we've got to wish Dr. Sander a happy birthday. They sang to him at the junior high, so we're not going to sing to you again. So, but happy birthday. So, what better way to spend your evening than with us? So,
Thank you.
dreams do come true. So, with that, we'll move on to agenda items. Anybody have anything for agenda building?
I do. Thanks for the video for you and the TV team. That video was really well done. I think it helps get it out to the public, everything that's going on in the high school. So, and then again, I would like to say what Tim said about the 7th and 8th grade teachers. They're just doing a phenomenal job, so.
Anyone else? With that, we will move on to discussion items.
Okay, we have a presentation regarding student fees and lunch fees for next year, and Ms. Kowalski will present that to us.
Okay, hello. For the past few years, you haven't seen this because we haven't increased our fees. And this year, we're not doing that either. But what we are wanting to do with your approval is consolidate the fees a little bit. Throughout the year, there's different things that the administrative assistants need to assess fees for, like bowling or skating or scholastic or there's snacks at the early childhood level. So instead of every so often a parent having to come up with an extra 8, 10, 12, whatever number of dollars, Holly, actually at the junior high, suggested that maybe we consolidate these fees. I thought it was a great idea. I brought it to the district office. They had no issues with it. So obviously it reduces the financial transactions that we're having to do throughout the year. It's one less thing for the teacher or the admin assistant to have to deal with. We automatically can waive those free reduced students fees in this way. And like I said, it was prompted by Holly. The registration fee would now include at each grade level. You can see the early childhood through 6, those are the things that it would include. And then 7, 8, and 9 through 12, it would be the PE t-shirts. Overall, the fees were not increased with this adjustment. They were actually slightly lowered. So,
Can I just emphasize something? You did say that normally when you collect fees at different times throughout the years for different things, bowling or skating, you have to then reconsider, okay, who has an inability to pay? And this means there's only one time that you have to do that, and it's not the teacher or the principal that would be involved in that. So that's one benefit to those that don't have an ability to pay, is that is taken care of one time, and they don't have to kind of relive that experience. So.
yeah, exactly. Yep. So these are the consolidated fees that I came up with. On the right-hand side is kind of what the fees were. And then now that total that you'll see, like for early childhood through 4, includes those other fees that are down below. Any and all that apply per grade level, just so you know. But like I said, we did not raise the fees. If anything, they are lowered. One thing I want to point out on this list that we always provide to you for approval is also our lunch prices. And the next board meeting, I'll be giving a presentation on that, but we're not raising prices. So I'm not gonna tell you all the details yet. You'll see that in a couple weeks, because I did a whole analysis of how things have been going. But that might give you a little indication. Any questions? So at the next board meeting, we'll put this up for approval.
Do you think there's any downside to this? Like, is there a negative?
I can't think of anything.
I mean, there could potentially be little things like, someone comes in the middle of the year, they missed out on bowling, or, you know, there's some of those kind of issues maybe that we'd have to consider.
But those that can't come up with the full amount at the same time, we do have payment plans that we make arrangements for them. It's not that much higher. As you can see, the high school and junior high almost didn't change at all. It's a $5 difference, you know, for them. But the other grades, it's slightly higher, $20, $22 higher. But less than what they would have paid if they paid these individually.
The majority of the fees were always due at the beginning of the year anyway. Correct, I mean, like say the one out of the 165, it
yeah.
was already
Yes.
at 118 or whatever.
Yes, like the early childhood,
So,
yeah, was $88 was due up front, and then those other fees.
so there'd
throughout.
be an outside if somebody didn't have the money to come up with, but most of it was due at the beginning of the year anyway.
Yes.
Just the smaller ones were throughout the year.
Exactly, yep.
Is there any way to put a checkbox in if you know your kid's gonna be in an activity? Add that activity fee?
To add an additional activity fee?
No, not an additional, so I don't see activity fee.
Oh, it's on there. It's separated though. So you will only be charged for an activity fee if your student participates in an activity fee. These are just the smaller things that all the students do at each of the schools. So all the kids skate, not all the kids bowl, but all the kids have recorders, you know, all those things. This is just combining the ones that we know that every student is gonna need to pay for at some point through the year.
No, I'm sorry, I looked at the big bold on the right, I didn't look at the left, I did the tiny, I should have put my glasses on.
Yeah, sorry. Any other questions?
Some of the parents might wish the recorder fee wasn't included.
Everyone must have one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll now move on to action items. So we'll accept a motion to approve the 2024-25 Board of Education meeting calendar.
I move that the Board of Education approve the 2024-25 Board of Education meeting calendar as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? Valerie?
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Breaker,
Yes.
Dr. Crawl,
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman,
Yes.
and Mr. Roth.
Yes.
We'll now accept a motion to approve the asbestos removal for the summer of 2024.
I move that the Board of Education approve the summer 2024 asbestos removal as presented.
Support.
So this is doing what we did in the east wing of Jefferson School, all 3 floors, taking the last of the really horrible tile out of the west wing, all 3 floors. And involves other things, Grundy cafeteria as well as part of that. But we were pleased to see that the cost for the Jefferson portion, you would have kind of expected to have been almost identical, because it's just about identical spaces. But that part actually came in lower than last year's Jefferson only bid, so that was good. And I just want to make it clear what it is that we're abating, and so we're doing some things at Grundy and some things at, a lot of things at Jefferson, and it's gonna be like a brand new school in that wing, just like the other wing. I think you got a chance to see that if you had a tour over there when we had dinner with those teachers, so they're very excited about it, so looking forward to having that done.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
Dr. Crawl,
Yes.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Mr. Breaker,
Yes.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lehman. Yes.
Now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support it.
Let's make a quick comment, and there's another donation that we're accepting in there. It's just neat to see that the public continues to support the Morton School District, and it seems to be more common, so that's a good thing that we get the support of the community, so.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Red,
Yes.
Dr. Crawl,
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman. Yes. Mr. Roth,
Yes.
and Mr. Breaker.
Yes. We'll now move on to the non-agenda audience presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Breaker. Our first speaker will be Heather McMeekin.
Hello, my name is Heather McMeekin, speaking on behalf of Peoria, Illinois Now. A couple of things I thought I would talk about, like the FOIA process. For instance, we've noticed that there's a slow walking of the process. So we file a FOIA, and then we don't get a response till a few hours before the 5-day deadline is passed. In other communities where we file FOIAs, we get an immediate response if they know it's going to be voluminous or too cumbersome, and we get offered a negotiation to reduce it. But we don't get that with you all. You wait until the very last moment to slow walk it. And there's one FOIA that was first filed back last year that the family has repeatedly had denied. And we received advisement that that family should have actually received that underneath the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so I'm hoping that the Illinois Attorney General's Public Access Counselor has since contacted your leadership. They said that they would to help explain that to you. But I filed that FOIA and refiled it because we have some real concerns with the denials of that. And so the request that I sent to appealing that to the Illinois Attorney General was that I requested a determination on that denial, as a family repeatedly had tried to get that same info just about their own kid and been repeatedly denied for months, no matter how many times they've adjusted the ask. And even was told that just giving her child's name wasn't key terms, which is not accurate. Therefore, I believe that for whatever reason, you just do not intend to comply with that unless forced to. Based upon the complaints we are receiving, and about that in particular, we believe that there may be communications in there that you may be hoping not to be revealed, which impact the allegations of bias and unethical conduct by Principal Michael Saunders. So I don't believe working further with you is likely to bring you to compliance, and we need outside assistance to help you understand your responsibility at transparency as elected governmental officials. If the school district chooses to continue to employ a deeply problematic principal who has over 30 complaints and abuses taxpayer-funded electronic email systems while continuing to generate more complaints, I believe the burden of handling those complaints and requests for data falls on your administration for those choices and should not be on the public, nor the parents asking for accountability. And claiming that it's too cumbersome, what I would say is, hold your people accountable to standards, make sure they're not violating children's rights, and they're actually responding appropriately to complaints in a timely manner, and that will solve some of those problems. But to claim that it's too expensive or cumbersome, you are a board that essentially gave away $1 million of taxpayer money. So for you to claim that $40 here, $30 here is cumbersome and therefore not a reason to reveal that is, in my mind, a bit of hypocrisy on the issue. As far as bullying and bigotry, which you have called us bullies several times, at the last meeting, Dr. Ashley Fisher a credentialed expert was up here, and we watched Dr. Diane Kroll rolling her eyes as she was speaking, making faces, muttering under her breath. We have the video. We haven't posted it publicly. We're hoping you'll correct that behavior because it's disrespectful, and it's quite hypocritical for you all to claim that we are being disrespectful when we have had our rights violated by you all. And to maintain decorum and to not let our anger show at that is too big an ask. But also your behavior towards us is actually the revealing of how you treat parents who bring those concerns to your school district. And so we want the public to understand that.
30 seconds.
You've still never responded to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Tammy Woodmansey didn't deserve to be banned. Diane Kroll's behavior at the last meeting, for which she owes Dr. Fisher an apology, should have been addressed. I would ask that you please allow IEPs and Section 504 hearings to be, recorded, and that you please just start giving people their information and letting them record it for the parent who can't be there. Not a big ask.
Great, thank you, Heather. Brian Groth is our next speaker.
My name is Brian Groth. I'm a parent in the district and a resident of the community. Another reminder, Mr. Breaker, I asked you to provide evidence of your claim at the December 12th meeting that we are calling for the removal of administrators or board members due to religious beliefs. To date, you've not provided evidence to support your claim, so I ask you again to correct the record and remove your false and provocative claim. At the December 12th meeting, Ms. McMeekin read into record a local news article covering a visit from several Klansmen in full regalia to Morton school grounds with children assembled for the visit. She called on you to publicly apologize for the actions of the school administrator that welcomed the KKK, assembled the children, and then thanked the Klansmen with glowing remarks in the local press. To date, I don't believe you have done so. What messages were conveyed to the children that day in the Morton schools? It's not a stretch to say that descendants of those children live amongst us in this community. The notoriety, shame, and dysfunction of being a racist sundown community persists for generations. Is it below this board to make the effort to apologize for a grievous wrong? Dr. Smock, I again ask you to reverse your decision to ban Ms. Woodmansey from these proceedings. Her brief exchange of words with Mr. Nathan Fay or Mr. Breaker did not rise to the level of the penalty you imposed. If you had done your job properly, you would have interviewed eyewitnesses to the exchange with Mr. Fay, who initiated the conversation as he was leaving the building. When a group of attendees leaving the meeting paused in the foyer before proceeding outside, Mr. Fay entered the area. His path to the door was unimpeded. As he reached the door, he turned completely around to address one or more of the people standing in the foyer. Brief words were exchanged, but Mr. Fay persisted in conversation, as is his right to do so. Tammy Woodmansey reacted as you would expect someone advocating for a child whose rights had been violated. I'm not aware of any other meeting participants being banned from the property, including those making disparaging remarks right in front of you. Let me remind you of some of the terms you've heard, like broken, evil minority, parasitic spirit, those with deep emotional pain that don't understand who they are, sodomites, outsiders. A couple of comments from Representative Stephen Howder. They're coming for us, all of us, and we need to stand strong. Most of this was to the applause of the audience members. When one of our folks, credentialed folks, a counselor, stood up to speak solemnly about LGBTQ people and the support that's necessary, a military veteran, a parent in the district. She was heckled by many in the audience, including your adult son, Dr. Smock. Finally, I'll reiterate, Dr. Fisher and licensed counselor Julie Peters have offered their services to the district to try to improve what's going on and the behaviors that persist. You have not even given them the courtesy of responding. I call for the removal of Principal Michael Saunders and Superintendent Craig Smock, resignation of board members Tim Breaker and Diane Kroll.
All right, our last speaker will be Dr. Ashley Fisher.
Hello all. So I did want to start by talking a little about the FOIAs and reiterating, especially for those at home that may not understand this, that they are not meant to be aggressive requests for information. I've actually refrained from using that myself because I continue to respectfully ask for information that is publicly available, that is required to provide. For instance, the asbestos that you're literally talking about, and apparently you all have some number in front of you. I've asked 3 times, very nicely now, for you to please give me the information on how much money our district has spent on asbestos abatement, and I have yet to receive a reply. So what option are you leaving us? I'm genuinely asking, because that information is ours to have. And so short of a FOIA, which yes, uses your time and wastes resources, what other option do we have if you're not going to give us the answers when we ask nicely? So it was also pretty disheartening that after I came up here last week and said, hey, I have a scientifically proven way to prevent school shootings, that none of you reached out to me to find out more information about that. So I'd like to once again revisit my request that the school district adopt a verified external anonymous reporting system. The same request I've been making now for 6 months, only now I can back it with actual data. So for those of you that don't subscribe to the American Association of Pediatrics Journal, a recent study came out in January about the effects of the Say Something anonymous reporting system. This is one of the systems I suggested to the board last year. This reporting system currently operates in 23 states and serves more than 5 million 6th through 12th graders annually. It enables students to anonymously report an issue 24/7, 365 through an app, hotline, or website when they see a classmate who is at risk of harming themselves or others. An integral part of this system is the 24/7 accredited National Crisis Center, where trained counselors will review the tips submitted, gather information, and then classify the urgency before sending the tip information to the relevant local responders. Perhaps most importantly to this board, this system is entirely free. All you have to do is ask to be part of it. The study I spoke of looked at data from a single southeastern state that had implemented the Say Something system in all 103 of its school districts across the years 2019 to 2023. Over that 4 academic years of operation, anonymous reporting in this state enabled 1,039 confirmed mental health interventions, 109 saves where clear evidence of imminent suicide crisis were present and averted. It prevented 38 acts of school violence where weapons were recovered on school grounds, and it averted 6 confirmed planned school attacks. That's all data from one state. Now, if the children's lives that were saved by this anonymous reporting system were not enough to convince you to adopt it, I'm hoping an example of how the current 709 reporting system is functioning may convince you. This example is being shared with permission from the family. Last November, a 12-year-old black student at Grundy reported to Principal Saunders via the current online system another student had called him the N-word. Principal Saunders emailed the reporting student and their family and asked if they had any video of the incident, even though phones are not allowed in the junior high. They replied no, to which Principal Saunders replied thusly, I spoke to the student and he denied saying the N-word. There are no witnesses to this incident, so I could not take any formal disciplinary action. That's it. That's the entirety of the school's response to this report. So let's start with establishing that, of course, the 12-year-old boy who denied saying the N-word lied. And if any of you are doubting that, you have never met a 12-year-old boy. But more importantly, in this particular situation, when a white student is calling a black student the N-word, rather than punishment, why are steps not taken to provide education? What possible harm or trauma would come from having that student sit down with a black member of our community and have explained to them why that word is so hurtful and offensive? Just as importantly, why wasn't that black student supported? There is a way to validate both of these students. We don't have to pick a liar. to tell the white student that they're not gonna get in trouble, but they're going to receive some education on racial slurs. And then to reassure the black student that they're being educated, and if it happens again, they should report it again so more action can be taken. But instead of deciding to educate and support both students, Michael Saunders chose to call the black student a liar, and then allowed him to continue to be isolated and unsupported at school. And unfortunately, the story exactly mirrors his older brother's experience with our school district. His brother dealt with racial slurs at school for 3 years, with the perpetrating white student regularly bragging to their classmates he'd never get in trouble with for it. And after being called a liar once by administration, is it any surprise both of these black students stopped reporting the incidents? Instead, they lived in that toxic, stressful environment before asking to be homeschooled because they could not deal with the bullying any longer. Our district failed these students in every way possible. Since my own pleas have not been impactful enough for you to take action, I have started a petition in the hopes that not only the Morton community members who care about giving our students a scientifically proven way to report mental health and bullying concerns, and in doing so, hopefully prevent a tragedy happening within our district. I've posted the petition on several Facebook pages.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher.
You can also get it by searching on change.org, implement an anonymous reporting system in the Morton School District. I sincerely hope the community and the board will rise to this call to prevent bullying, gun violence, and suicidality by signing this petition.
Thank you for those comments. We'll now accept a motion to enter into closed session to discuss personnel and negotiations.
So moved.
Okay, let's do. Dr. Cross.
Yes.
Mr. Rudd.
Yes.
Mr. Roth.
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman.
Yes.
Dr. Crawl.
Yes.
And Mr. Breaker.
Yes. And our next meeting will be April 9th here at the same building at 5:30. So with that, we'll take 5 minutes to go to clean up.